the army raided the bar. He says if I wasn't in there when you put the door in. The outside of the place was full of Land Rovers, and I walked into the bar with a leather miniskirt on me and a black basket and a pair of cowboy boots. And they didn't know whether to stay on or raid the place or search it.
People were afraid to come out of their houses, but then suddenly the city council in the mid or late 70s started civic festivals every year, and as part of that, Halloween must have sprung out of that, and they must have had a parade. Although there's conflicting views, boys claim that they started it and this bar started it.
I really don't think it was with the council at all, to be honest. I don't know, I can't say that, right?
There was no involvement from the city council as far as I remember at that point, or if there was, it was fairly minimal.
But I'm nearly 100% sure that it was Tony Tolan that started it in the castle at the time.
From my point of view, I don't remember any celebrations at all before that.
It was really just like in the bars then, mostly in and around Waterloo Street. So
Now that's 30 years ago. How are you going to prove it or disprove it? As a family, we always celebrate Halloween. I had 3 brothers. We used to go out every Halloween night, dressed up. So I thought that'd be nice to could continue that. I decided to have a fancy dress party in the castle bar, and it turned out to be a great success because all the staff got dressed up, and all the regulars that were there, they got dressed up, and everybody that came in fancy dress got a drink on the house.
I came into the castle in 1987, and it was one of the first things that they had told me about it, you know, was the bar manager who was there before was Tony Tolan. He came up with the idea about a fancy dress. Then it just continued on, it had been going. It was great fun because the people then were really open-minded about it. People that you would never have believed would have went to the effort.
Well, I think that the people were actually fed up being stopped by the army and do this, do that. They had to let their hair down some way. And to me, that was the best way of doing it. And as far as I know, everybody enjoyed themselves. And they all enjoyed getting dressed up.
I have nothing but admiration for Tony, the thinking about it. They started off, a lot of stress about the time, and then it was a simple release at that time. People coming in, the atmosphere was wonderful, you know, really wonderful, and even, you know, something as serious as a place being raided.
The soldiers came into the bar that night, they had no clue what's going on. I said to me, what's happening? I said, Halloween. He turned in his seat and walked back out again. Thought we were all mad, we probably were.
Whenever they come in and seen people dressed up and a French tart standing looking at them to do it, you know, like, it sort of broke it down a bit. You know, seriously, it really, really did. They didn't go through the place as much as what they probably did, you know, if it was a normal day of the week. And there was an atmosphere in Waterloo Street, there really was, you know, between us, the Dunlow and the Guidor. Waterloo Street was, you know, it was a vulnerable enough street too. There was always something happening about it, you know.
People were being fed up being stopped by checkpoints and through checkpoints and so forth and so forth. So they all thought we'll go out and have a party to ourselves. As far as I'm concerned, that's how it all started. And then each year it grew, it got bigger and bigger and bigger.
There's quite a large programme of events taking place in the city during the full week leading up to Halloween. The carnival parade, we're expecting maybe 15 to 19,000, and you might expect the next 1,000 coming in then for the actual fireworks.
So you've got 40,000 people, revellers on the streets, all fancy dress, and we believe there is nowhere else in Ireland or probably in Europe or possibly in the world where you will see that amount of people all dressed up for Halloween.
We've got to keep moving if we're moving in the parade, alright? Because if not, there's going to be a big torch behind you that's going to come out and squash it.
As you can hear by my accent, I'm not originally from Derry, I'm from Inverness in the Highlands. but I moved here to start at my dance school in 2001. The first year I came over here, my partner says, oh, we're going into Derry Halloween, and obviously I didn't know what to expect because I hadn't seen it before. I was just blown away by the whole experience. Obviously took loads of photos, took videos, and when I sent them back home to my family, because I've got younger nieces and nephews back home, they couldn't believe that an event like that would go on for Halloween.
I mean, I think it's different to other places that I've lived, definitely. The enthusiasm with which people like celebrate Halloween here is something special. I haven't seen it other places anyway. Woo! My name is Sarah Grayview. I'm an artist. I did my PhD around issues to do with Halloween. I mean, like, I became interested in it because I lived here.
As soon as you mention Halloween parade, kids get really excited, parents get excited, they're coming in, everybody starts discussing costumes and hair and makeup and what they're going to be doing and what dances they're going to be doing, and it's always a guessing game. I wonder what the theme is, I wonder what the floats are going to be like.
Would you all sit a piece a minute just to how funny this? You're making a racket. Well, what we have here behind us is the skeleton, if you pardon the pun, of a large prop that's going to lead the Halloween parade this year. It's if you can visualise it, it's going to be a bride and bridegroom in the style of the Mexican Day of the Dead. So it'll basically be two skeletons, one dressed in a wedding dress and one in a top hat and tails. So it's kind of difficult to see it now, but use your imagination and it'll not be long before it takes shape and turn into something that'll scare the life out of you, hopefully.
I was approached by the Carnival initiative. Basically they were looking for dance groups and I thought it was something different for Solace Highland dancers. Well, the Halloween parade is organised in, say, maybe the 6 months leading up to Halloween. So they get the call to get the groups together, and then it's up to me to rehearse the group and sort everything out, the costumes, etc. in the lead up to Halloween. Then it's a big event for them as they actually get the chance to go out to perform, have a big audience, have a bit of fun about it and see the whole atmosphere and the whole buzz around the whole thing. So it's brilliant for the kids and the people of this city.
No, nothing does compare to Halloween because there's so much community participation. The whole town goes Halloween crazy. You know, you can't really compare it to nothing else. We take pride in our work, no matter should there be 10 people watching it. We have a good creative team. They want to put their best out. The fact that Derry is such a big event, thousands of people come out and attend and participate in all the various activities. You know, so we are keen to show our good face to the town and beyond. We're still at the making, so probably better just to get back when we have something a bit more visually stimulating than me to look at, you know what I mean?
Does it say REC up in the wee thing?
Yep.
She's recording. Oh yeah! Hey, Jay! What's up? Hey, Jay! What's up?
Bars were very quiet because it's during the Troubles, as you would expect. So any chance of people letting their hair down and having a do, that was the reason people took to it.
Hey, Bill and Ben!
Don't tell me you're not really recording this.
Oh, it's really recording. You will be shortly.
Thank you.
And you had music and great spectacle, and everybody looked forward to it, and competition for the best dressed. It was all of that, and it was a very big thing in the bars for years and years around that time. It was so weird but funny and good crack, and all the bars took part of it. Everybody looked forward to it for weeks on end. People were running, children, adults, everybody was dressed up.
God forgive you.
Wait, back up at me, she's back at me.
You can look at it that, you know, that's when the Troubles were. But that's the thing that stood out for me at that time. You know, it was a party. There was nothing negative about it. It was just like a party atmosphere, you know, and Waterloo Street at that time would have been probably the main street that would have did it. And then it just snowballed from there.
There was about 10 bars, maybe more, 12 bars on Waterloo Street. Long, steep street, in the one street, and you could have went different types of people and different types of bars. You know, each bar has their own crowd. But on Halloween night, you get everybody coming in and out and up the street and down the street, and then it's spilled out onto that street. And that's because the bar's right beside one another. Maybe 10 yards would be another bar, 50 yards another bar. So they all spilled out onto the street. Some people say that started at Halloween because of people drifting in and out of bars dressed up.
We printed tickets so that everybody geared up. This is going to be a very big occasion. Everybody had to be dressed up. The night came along, Halloween night, everybody arrived. The downstairs bar was packed, everybody in fancy dress. And then suddenly, police arrived in, bomb scare.
Bomb scares, by the way, they are you get a bomb scare every day or twice a week. Sometimes we're bomb. Everybody out in the way.
Oh gosh, everybody out. So we all flooded across Castle Street. Everybody seemed to go in that same direction, down Shipley Street, and then everybody dispersed out into the bars at the bottom of Shipley Street, round into Foyle Street. And it seemed that no one else, though, in any of those bars were in fancy dress. So it was as if it was potentially the first Halloween fancy dress parade down Shipley Street. As a consequence of it, a lot of people around the city centre, I think maybe for the first time in a long time or ever, saw a lot of people in fancy dress. I think thought, well, this is a nice way to enjoy yourself because these people seem to be enjoying themselves, and maybe we'll do this next year. And perhaps that I would say quite confidently that it certainly added a lot to the subsequent years of Halloween fancy dress in Derry.
A very plausible thing. I could believe Brian because he's a great storyteller. And Tony Tolan then from the Castle Bar claims something similar. And I'm sure there's others who do the same. But that's the most chance you had of seeing a whole lot of people dressed up before the parades was Waterloo Street, because all the bars and everybody was dressed up and they all came out onto the street. And at the end of the night they were all through it anyhow, so at 2 in the morning there was about 2,000 on the street dressed up.
But it was it was definitely a big party, happy time at that time, And there's definitely there's more freedom now, so you wouldn't see police or anything at all about the place. Very rarely now. But to be honest, if I was to pick a time to go back to, it would be back at that time then, without a doubt.
I think in around the early and mid 80s, with the trolls, people actually appreciated unique opportunities like that to do something different. There wasn't that many places for entertainment in the city, and so people enjoyed getting out and any excuse to get out. So you were pushing an open door when you asked people to go and get dressed up and come out for that.
But in the middle of all that doom and gloom, there was power, there was great fun, because you sort of living for the moment. You had to dodge bullets and had to dodge everything to get the pubs in them days. Once it's dark, in the middle of a winter, in the dark nights, and you go into a pub, it was a dodgy time, because you never knew when shooting would start, when bombs would go off. So when you had a chance to enjoy yourself, you took it. And it happened seldom enough, but the Halloween was the one thing that kept good the whole time through the troubles. We had a night off from everything.
There was a photographic project set up, a community photographic project set up in the early 80s with the sole purpose of providing, because then it was the middle of a war zone and we were constantly being bombarded by international journalists and photographers coming here, taking their photograph and flying off. And more often than not they were distorting what was actually happening here for their own reasons. So a woman called Trisha Ziff, who was involved in a photographic project in London, came here and decided to set a project up here. It was just by chance. I heard about it. I was 17. We kind of knew instinctively that this was an important thing to do. We weren't like prize-winning photographers. We weren't magnum photographers or whatever. But we knew what we were doing there was value to it. At the time, you would have thought, sure, that's only a photograph of the street. Wayne's playing on the street. Sure, there's millions of images like that. But looking at it 20 odd years later, you go, Jesus, look, there's a street and half that street's gone, or that Wayne there is now in jail, or that Wayne there later went on to be whatever. Passage of time, things change. It's only now in hindsight we realised that, it was a valuable thing to do, and we recorded something that's now gone. And I knew that simple act back then in 1982 got me involved and set me on this journey, if you like. And if that hadn't happened, I still could be out there on the dole with no prospects, no hope, no nothing. Look, when we explored Halloween and some depth, we realised that, there's more than so-called two communities. There's more than Protestants and Catholics. There's people of no faith. There's people of Muslim faith. There's people of different faiths and ethnic backgrounds. There's a strong Filipino community in Derry. So we thought, let's look at other ways in which Halloween or that particular time is celebrated or marked. We have, for example, the Mexican Day of the Dead. That's just a good way of kind of going, we may be all different, but there's a lot that unites us, and there's a lot we can celebrate together. Not to ignore differences, that's the thing. I have found that some cross-community activity is about don't mention the war, don't mention the obvious, don't mention the elephant in the room. Talk about what divides us. That's important, but equally talk about what we have in common. And again, that's all communities, that's just not communities in the straight up sectarian head count, prods, pips. There's gay people, there's a gay community. Within any community, there's several communities. We're all about expressing and including everyone. And Halloween does do that and did that naturally. People didn't celebrate Halloween because the council says let's celebrate Halloween. That was something that was organic. People done it in their own homes. They put a bin bag over their wain's head and they painted their first week hole and they sent them out round the trick or treat. It's become huge now. In some respects, it's a positive thing, but in other ways, it's become plastic. In some respects, it's become all about consumerism. People go into a pawn shop at Halloween and they buy the wee plastic outfits and wear them for one night and it's straight into the bin. That's a retrogressive step. As I say, it used to be people made their own. They looked at what they had in the house. We have women who worked in factories on every street and they were sewing up costumes and doing this and doing that. There's nothing in my eyes as great as somebody just using a couple of cardboard boxes and making a robot. Instead of going and either buying a cheap product in a pawn shop or buying something really expensive online. There's no crack in that. The crack's in making it with your wain and putting it together. All we're trying to do is engage as many different people as possible across a diverse range, not specific to any community, because Halloween has always been about people dressing up and it didn't matter. That was the beauty about Halloween. You didn't know whether somebody was a prod or a pip when they're dressed up. So you have that anonymity there. And it's a kind of running joke in terms of Halloween. It's just a delight for closet transvestites. They can, for one night of the year, they can stick a frock on and not be slagged off for it.
Well, the first one I wore, that was my daughter's then boyfriend, and my daughter dared me to wear it. There was a suit in the front with a tabby bow and all, nice shirt. The back was bare, and I had a bra on me, a pair of knickers on me too. And I went down to the bar and I had this big long coat. I went down to the bar and they were all shouting at me, and they're totally not dressed up. So this boy asked me for a pint, and the pump was behind, so I took off the coat. Jesus, look at him! Look at him! So that was my big memory. That was my first ever time doing that, and I was beautiful.
Can you speak of experience there?
No, well, I wouldn't be again pulling an out frock on. You're freer. Let's put it that way.
Dressing up, it's a release for a lot of people because they can adopt a new persona potentially. In those days, I mean, with so much bad news, it was an opportunity for a night to people just to, as it were, get away from it all, and but a form of escapism. What better form of escapism than to get dressed up and take yourself out of yourself, out of potentially the drudgery and the depression that was Derry at the time, at those days of the Troubles.
It was not long after I moved here, so I moved here in 91. So whenever maybe was it 93 or 94 that the year that the Grey Steel massacre happened. People were very tense that year.
2 gunmen walked into the pub, shouted "trick or treat," and began firing indiscriminately.
I worked in a bar that year. The end of the night, there was like a riot. I worked on Waterloo Street, and that was the kind of epicenter in and around their Waterloo place on Waterloo Street. And there was a big riot, but like kind of a costumed riot. And I often thought, you know, it would be amazing to see the documentation of that, like a a guy dressed as like a giant banana throwing a petrol bomb or whatever. Like it happened.
One of the strangest things came out of it, a terrible lot of young people dressed up as policemen and soldiers when the streets were full of policemen and soldiers and nobody knew who was who on Halloween night. You know, a policeman could have stepped out in front of your car, "Can I see your licence?" and you really didn't know whether to laugh or hand out the licence. It was just odd because there sort of had been a war going on between the youth and the police and the army, and then suddenly they were dressing up as policemen and army for one night of the year. Maybe just to see what it was like.
You see bizarre situations. I seen boys dressed up as cops, stopping real cops in the street. And for the most part they went along with it. Some of them got into the spirit of it too, you know, showed their kind of human side as well.
It was a night off for everybody. It was, you knew, as they say, not in them words, you could get away with murder, but you could have dressed up as anything and you could have got away with it. That's why people dress up as Che Guevara, and then beside him would be a policeman and a soldier, you know.
It's just like a funny thing to do. But it's even funnier for people if it's something that seems more forbidden somehow. I think people find it even more enjoyable. I think.
You know, it used to be everybody wanted to dress up as a cop or dress up as a bloody soldier or dress up as an area man, so it was all cops, Brits and balaclavas, you know. Thankfully people are starting to get a wee bit more creative.
Just find it so interesting, like this idea of dressing up around something that's so highly charged. You're in the process of coming out of an era of violence, and then things become like a farce almost. And I think there's a lot of that in Halloween.
It's just a great chance to make gory skeleton things, and it's a great atmosphere, great crowd, seeing all the things that are being made. That's the main thing. It's nice to make things and have loads of people out watching and appreciating what you've made. It's always nice seeing an idea come together. You sort of start off with drawings and you have a fair idea how you're going to make it, and then you come across a few snags across the way, and then eventually, actually getting to this stage is pretty good in terms of the relief of knowing that you've got something that you're going to be able to show on the night. Is it the most ambitious? It might be. It's hard to tell. We've made quite a lot of very different things over the years. It's probably the most ambitious thing I've done with the Derry Carnival here before, just because it's so tall and we needed to make sure that it was all very secure. Yeah, I think we grab the bottom, the very bottom there, and then these two could stop it from falling over basically. Okay. Yeah.
Right, so who's going up? Who's going to the upper level?
I'm coming up.
Right, then we need 2 more people up here to help hand it up to them. If anybody wants to.
Whose idea was this?
Yours.
You see, you keep me right in my step in here, will you?
It's not even that there, so get my balance. Right, grab one of them off and out. One of them on. Forward. If that thing falls, I am running.
Yes.
It's him.
Perfect.
Hey!
Well done. First time.
Last time. Aye, 2 women.
I'm happy with the results, yes. We've still got a wee bit to go. It was good to get it up. We can see that our skirt's a wee bit too short, so we're going to add a wee bit down on the bottom of it. We've just got a few more things that we need to do to finish it off. The night itself, to be honest, a lot of times I'm just delighted that it's all over by that stage. It's sort of that we've had a successful night, everything's worked well, we've had no major catastrophes or anything, so the night itself was quite stressful really. It's actually almost when you see the photographs at the end and everything looks fantastic, that's probably the really nice part, and everything's been successful on the day. So there's 4 main crew working down at the City Council area. We load it up from here in the morning, take it down, how many runs it takes, and then it's not really a difficult job. As long as you've got enough willing hands, it's easy to make that work.
The Arts has acted as a tool for regeneration, a tool for transformation, a tool for cross-community activity. You know, there's no great science to it. It's tried and tested the world over.
It's a fantastic way of bringing the two communities together, because everybody just enjoys Halloween regardless of what community you come from. We're based on the waterside, so we have people coming to the studios here from all areas of the waterside, but also from the city side as well. So the Halloween becomes a whole cross-community situation even without planning it, because we have got so many kids from different communities, different culture backgrounds, etc. on a daily or weekly basis. So it's very easy just to put that all together for the Halloween as well.
We've done lots of choreography, we've done lots of different events, so basically the only change for us was really the Halloween theme, making us look like zombies rather than looking like traditional Highland dancers in a very strict costume. By the time we get face paints and hairs done alone, that's going to take us at least 3 hours. Never mind getting costumes on and getting another wee practice and a run through.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Definitely worth all the effort. I think the biggest payback of the whole event, the whole week running up to it, is seeing those kids' faces when they get to Quayside and everybody sees the floats and the music starts and everything. When you see kids' faces in that atmosphere, then that makes all the effort worthwhile.
Halloween is completely unique to Derry. There's no question about it, and it was, I think, set up, during the Troubles. People come out to the streets, and it was very much to do with the Derry people. They really, really embraced it. So it is about the community as well. I mean, the carnival parade is absolutely fantastic. It's grown from strength to strength. That is all your young communities all being involved, really getting into the spirit of Halloween that you'll see nowhere else.
I think it's just so widespread here, really cross-generational. I'd say it's changing a little bit. I noticed a lot more people that weren't dressed up this year, that were out having a look at the parade or having a look at the fireworks but weren't dressed up. But yeah, that thing of it just being everybody's kind of included, although obviously there's a late night thing that's a drunky pub-based thing that's really only for adults, only for certain people.
The bars are still packed to the doors to this day. A Halloween night is still a big night. And it's a big night now. I think it changed a bit for the better. It's not for the better, for the good of everything. All the children would come out earlier on to see the parade. The parade's usually 7:30 or 8 at night, lasts for about an hour. Then you have a fireworks display, and then you're in the bars, then the older ones in the bar. And it's now it's for all the family. Especially in Derry, but Derry is not the place it was 20 or 30 years ago. It's unbelievable. For somebody as old as me, it's unbelievable, the change in my lifetime.
What does they say, oak trees grow from little acorns, and it was small at that time. It was growing into a festival. I think it has definitely brought jiggers. It's brought massive business, and the town's full with it, which is fantastic, fantastic.
I think it's fantastic for the town. I think it's brilliant. Things could not be better, and the town has changed a whole lot since then. 1981 changed a whole lot, for the better, I think.
I mean, it's one of the biggest street parties in Ireland, as we all know, and that's good because Derry people like to enjoy themselves. And again, partly because Derry's not like Dublin or Belfast. I think when something happens in Derry, people tend to want to support it because it's something different.
I think it's more about the people of Derry, that they're trying to do it in Belfast, and they've invested a lot in their programme now as well, and using Titanic and but again, the people aren't getting into the celebration the way they do here in Derry, and I think that's very unique and it's very special, and it's very synonymous with Derry Halloween.
of course, as a consequence of that, people from all over the country and from foreign lands come because they know it's a big street party and everybody's in good humour. And I think it's one of the largest street parties with one of the lowest incidents of crime or disorder. So I think it's a fine reflection and credit to the people of the city that they can host such a large party and everybody's so as well behaved as they are.
But I wouldn't want to be managing it now, you know, it's I'll tell you, fair play to the council for doing it. Like they definitely did, now have taken it on board and run with it.
Working here for 18 years, I mean, I've seen how it has evolved from, I suppose, more of a local event to probably bringing more national, international visitors into the city.
Strangers come to Derry, were never here in their lives before, and they think it's a great place. You couldn't book a hotel in it from one year to the next for Halloween. But the gap between Derry what it was and Derry what it is, in the middle of it all was about 30 years when nothing moved. Nothing moved. For a long time nobody came here, nobody saw what it was like except on the news. And there's people coming now in the last few years that they see what a completely different place it is. I hope I have another 30 or 40 years they'll live in it.
We've been doing it regularly for quite a few years, so we have it sort of all down to a fairly good routine now. I'm working on two main props. There's this prop and there's another large lantern prop. The parade starts at 7, so we have 6 hours to get the two props together. We are giving ourselves a lot of time. We reckon a comfortable 2 hours to get this prop up. Just taking it easy, making sure everything's done properly. And then with the other prop, it'll be something similar. We'll have a few hours to spare, but it's always nice to be sitting with your feet up a couple of hours before the parade, being able to relax and know that everything's done. And then we have 250 performers arriving at about 6 o'clock who are all costumed up. We've been working on the costumes over the last couple of months as well, so 250 people. We'll arrange them all in order, join the rest of the parade, and that'll be us. We'll be sorted. The good thing about the Derry Parade is that right from start to finish there's big crowds the whole way. It's really nice that the whole parade, the whole hour long that you're parading, is absolutely jammed with people.
So let's give them a big cheer as they come through.
To gather and celebrating something all together, as well as giving so many people from throughout the city and further afield the chance to perform, then it's definitely worthwhile. That's no question for me.
You can't explain Halloween in Derry until you actually experience it firsthand, whether you're involved with the actual parade and taking part in the parade, or whether you're standing over at the quayside or Strand Road or any parts of the route. You have to be there to experience it, because you can look at a photo of somebody in a costume or you can look at a video of a float, but to actually be there and experience the music and the crowds and the noise and everything, there isn't any words to describe it. You have to come and see it for yourself and be in there in the moment, as they say.
That's Derry, our island. They're famous for enjoying themselves under any circumstances. And then in the early 80s, times were bad enough here, and there was trouble all the time. Checkpoints here and checkpoints there, and so forth. But we all got through it. Thank God for it.